Coming up on Network Africa. Warring parties in Libya hold talks in neighboring Tunisia as part of a continuing peace process. The Nelson Mandela Foundation celebrates the projected defeat of Donald Trump's presidency. Plus, Ghana's daily COVID-19 infections soar over a fortnight 5 times. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin today with stories and happenings that made headlines over the weekend.
Spokesperson for Côte d'Ivoire's opposition leader says the former Prime Minister, Pascal Affi N'Guessan, was under arrest on Saturday for creating a rival government after President Alassane Ouattara's election victory. Ivorian prosecutors are pursuing terrorism charges against more than a dozen opposition leaders who boycotted the October 31st vote in which Ouattara won a third term in office and announced they were creating a transitional council. The standoff has raised fears of a protracted instability in the country. Guinea's top court on Saturday confirmed President Alpha Condé's victory in last month's election, rejecting accusations of fraud and handing him a third term his opponents say is unconstitutional. The 82-year-old Condé's campaign to change the constitution earlier this year in order to circumvent a 2-term limit and subsequent candidacy in the October 18th election sparked violent protests that killed dozens of people. The president's main rival, former Prime Minister Cellou Dalein Diallo, and other opposition candidates alleged irregularities in the official results announced 2 weeks ago that showed Condé with 59.5% of the vote. Egypt closed polling stations on Sunday evening after the conclusion of the second stage of parliamentary elections. The country is now preparing for runoffs scheduled for November and December before the new parliamentarians take the oath of office in January. The second stage of parliamentary elections was held in 13 provinces, including the capital, Cairo. More than 4,000 candidates are vying in the polls. The previous parliament was full of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's supporters.
Whatever the pace of the beginning is.
An Egyptian diplomat predicts that despite initial tactical friction between President-elect Joe Biden and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, the politicians will eventually find their bearings.
There will be some tactical frictions and differences at the beginning, but America is too important and too strong to ignore, and Egypt in our region, in the Middle East, is also too strong, too important as a trendsetter in the region to ignore. America is a global country, therefore can't ignore the Middle East.
Nabil Fahmy was Egypt's ambassador to the United States for almost 10 years.
Some of our main stories now. Warring parties in the conflict in Libya are holding talks in neighboring Tunisia as part of a continuing peace process. The two sides, the Government of National Accord based in Tripoli and the Eastern Parliament led by General Khalifa Haftar, signed a ceasefire last month and will today start negotiations on forming a single government with the aim of holding elections. The head of the UN mission, Stephen Williams, says there has already been significant progress, and these latest talks offer Libyans a unique opportunity. 75 people are taking part in the talks, selected by the UN to represent Libya's political, military and social factions. To the elections in the U.S., President-elect Joe Biden's top priority is to tackle the coronavirus pandemic following his victory over Donald Trump. While announcing the first steps in his transition plan, his team says there will be more testing and Americans will be asked to wear masks. Mr. Biden is expected to Mr. Biden has already named a 12-member coronavirus task force, and However, President Trump is yet to concede, and Mr. Biden's win remains a projection as key states are still counting votes. Nevertheless, the Democrat is forging ahead with his plans to assume in power in January after major U.S. networks called the election in his favor on Saturday. Let's speak more on this now. Our Washington, D.C. correspondent, Maria Bird, joins us now. Hello, Maria. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
The past few days must have been so many things for you to do. Well, tell us the latest on Joe Biden's projected win.
Well, the latest for his projected win is really, they're getting to work. President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, as you mentioned earlier, they've already put together a 12-member coronavirus task force, which has already begun working on how the pandemic will be taken care of when they enter office in January. I would assume there's probably going to be some things put in place even earlier in January, even though they won't be official of the White House until after he takes the oath of office in late January. But you'll have that happening. They're putting together the names and list of individuals for the cabinet. There's already some projections as to who might be cabinet officials. They're putting together a transitional plan because obviously it's quite a lot to put in place between now and then, especially with the current situation where President Trump has not conceded in the race, which is why, as you said, it's a projection that he will win until there is final court proceedings that are taking place and lawsuits that have been brought forth by President Trump against the election, and then obviously the final counting. So there's much to be done and very little time to do it.
Now, even though he's yet to be announced the winner officially, that's President-elect Joe Biden, it seems he and his team have, hit the ground running with this coronavirus task force team they're putting together. Can you tell us a bit more about this 12-man team?
Well, the 12-member team consisted of individuals who've obviously been working on the pandemic for some time. One woman at a Yale University, some other infectious disease physicians, one former Surgeon General. And so these are individuals that have been very aware because, again, this coronavirus pandemic was not necessarily a shock to some who had been a part of the Obama administration. There was talks and a plan put in place by the Obama administration to how to address a pandemic. They projected that a pandemic would hit sometime in the future. And so many individuals were part of that task force back with Susan Rice and the Obama administration that were addressing these issues. So these members have been working on this for quite some time, and it's a diverse group of members that will most likely be following forth as advisors to the White House once President-elect Joe Biden is in the White House.
All right, Maria, just before I let you go, just give us a feel of what the mood is like right now at the White House. Is President Trump gradually coming to terms with the outcome of this election?
Well, what the reports are stating that he has been on the golf course most of the weekend. He has not really been taking much conversation with press, obviously. He has been devising a plan for how he will go forth his legal proceedings because it's going to be a very expensive legal process for what he is looking to go after. He has been requesting the best attorneys. He doesn't feel that the current attorneys he has are the best to handle the case that he's hoping to bring forth. And he's probably thinking about what he can do. Now, there are various members in his camp that have said that some are looking to try to ease his anger and obviously help him to kind of come to grips with conceding from the race. But there are others that are very much pushing him forward to say there's still options and possibility that he could reverse some of the election results. So I think right now, the real question is, will he be able to, over the next couple of weeks, look to conceding from the race and handing over and transitioning in a healthy way, in a way that is a democratic way, in a way that will allow the country to move forward come January 21st.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Maria Bird, Washington, D.C. correspondent. Thank you for speaking to us.
Thank you very much.
Still on the U.S. election, Republican Senator Mitt Romney says President Donald Trump remains the leading voice of the Republican Party despite losing the election to Democrat Joe Biden. Mr. Romney also says that the president is within his right to request recounts and challenge election results. He, however, says Mr. Trump will accept the inevitable if the legal challenges fail.
Without question, the most powerful voice in our party. He will have an enormous impact on our party going forward. I believe the great majority of people who voted for Donald Trump want to make sure that his principles and his policies are pursued. So, yeah, I mean, he's not disappearing by any means. He's the 900-pound gorilla when it comes to the Republican Party. And by the way, he has every right to call for recounts, because we're talking about a margin of 10,000 votes here or less in some cases. And so a recount could change the outcome. He wants to look at irregularities, pursue that in the court. But if, as expected, those things don't change the outcome, why, he will accept the inevitable.
Meanwhile, the Nelson Mandela Foundation has celebrated the projected defeat of Donald Trump's presidency and urged President-elect Joe Biden to fix the problems of racism, sexism, xenophobia, and Afrophobia. Mr. Trump is yet to concede, and Mr. Biden's win remains a projection, but the foundation is urging Mr. Trump to support what it termed a difficult transition. In a statement, the foundation says, as Nelson Mandela often used to say, a good leader knows when to step down and how to do so appropriately. It's not too late for Trump to embrace dignity for himself and for others. In the meantime, African leaders have also been congratulating President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Well, let's speak now to an international affairs analyst, Calvin Dack, who joins us from Washington, D.C. Hello, Calvin. Thank you for speaking to us on the program.
Hello.
Now, what can we expect from President Trump's legal challenge to this election?
Absolutely nothing but drama. Simply because here's the thing. When you were in the run-up, when you were playing Mitt Romney, he was talking about, margins close, recounts, or investigation of irregularities could make a difference. The problem is there haven't been any. And in a normal situation, you would find an irregularity and then call for a recount or have a lawsuit. But Trump is doing it the opposite way of saying that it's not fair because he didn't win, the votes against him were illegal, and now he has a team searching for irregularities. But in a real sense, apart from the drama, it's not going to really do anything, because even if the irregularities that they claim they have heard of would not change the election, they're not that big a number.
Now, a lot of world leaders have begun congratulating Mr. Biden even before he's been declared, the official winner. What for the world right now, what would a Biden presidency mean for the world and even for, the diplomatic relations between the U.S. and Africa?
Well, overall, I think that it will be better for our relations with other countries, including countries in Africa, because, as you know, President Trump's mantra was America first. And a lot of times in his policies, that meant America alone, which is not the way that the world superpowers should be interacting with our allies. So I think just not having that as the starting point will be better for all of our relations abroad. Now, when it comes to our relations with Africa, there's got to be work done. Between Democrat and Republican administrations, a lot of times the links that we have with the African countries is not taken advantage of as it should on both sides, because Africa has a lot to give the United States and vice versa. So I do think that there will be a much more open mind and more open opportunities for enriching these relations with Africa in a Biden presidency.
All right, then, Calvin Dack, international affairs analyst, thank you so much for speaking to us on Network Africa.
Thank you.
Still ahead on the program. Parents at a school in Cape Town clash with EFF members in South Africa's anti-racism protests. We'll give you details in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Authorities in Ghana say new daily coronavirus cases have increased from an average of 25 to 130 over the past 2 weeks, raising concerns about a possible second wave of the virus in the country. President Nana Akufo-Addo, in a televised address, said that the government will step up its contact tracing, testing and treatment of COVID-19 cases to stop the spread. The government has also extended pay incentives for health workers to the end of December, which include tax exemption and a 50% pay rise for COVID-19 frontline workers. Ghanaians will also continue to enjoy a free water supply to promote regular hand washing. The president attributed the increased infections to a disregard of COVID-19 safety protocols, including social distancing and wearing of face masks. Now, over 20,000 villagers in South Sudan's western equatorial state have flocked into schools, health centers and humanitarian compounds in Mundri town after they were forced from their homes by rising floodwaters. The worst rains in living memory have displaced nearly 370,000 South Sudanese since the month of July.
After the worst rains in living memory inundated her fields, South Sudan farmer Alexandra Karama is like hundreds of thousands of her compatriots staring hunger in the face. Her small holding is located outside the western town of Mundri, one of the worst affected areas.
My house collapsed. My groundnuts have all been swept by the water. My farmland is still underwater. You can go and see it. Nothing is left. No sorghum, no groundnuts, nothing.
Now, with the worst of the rains gone, aid agencies and the government of the young country, which seceded from the rest of Sudan, are rushing to distribute seeds for replanting to avert a famine.
The interventions of the government, along with the humanitarian agents, is to make sure that we quickly provide the needed humanitarian assistance. We have also witnessed the food distribution that had happened. We had also visited the medical facility, and we have also visited the distributions of seeds and crops in order so that people could be able to cultivate back, despite the fact that many of the crops has already been destroyed.
According to UN humanitarian coordinator Safari Jumampili, in Mundri alone, about 22,000 people have been affected by the floods and were in urgent need of food, shelter and health care. The UN was distributing some supplies, but roads to the area have been rendered impassable, complicating faster intervention. Like much of East Africa, South Sudan has received unusually prolonged torrential rains over the last year. The United Nations estimates the flooding has displaced more than 600,000 people, equivalent to more than 1 in 20 of the population.
Parents at a South African school in Cape Town, Brackenfell High, have clashed with members of the Economic Freedom Fighters Party who had organized an anti-racism protest. A video shared online shows the parents attacking red beret-clad activists, asking what they had come to do. The school was accused of being racist after a video of an all-white matriculation party emerged online. The school administration says it was not involved in planning the party and teachers were only invited by a group of parents. However, the EFF has been at the forefront of organizing several protests against institutions and companies accused of being racist. To Ethiopia now, the leader of the Tigray region in northern Ethiopia has called on the African Union to intervene to stop the country from spiraling into civil war. In a televised statement, Debretsion Gebremichael says Tigray will continue to defend itself until the federal government agrees to negotiate. But the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says consistent transgressions by Tigray's regional leaders has pushed him to take military action. Earlier, Mr. Abiy, without explanation, sacked his army chief, head of intelligence, and the foreign minister. The new army chief, Brenahu Jula says federal troops have captured 4 towns in western Tigray.
The TPLF all guards have continuously mounted both covert and overt attempts to undermine the people of Ethiopia and our new administration. Behind conflicts that have resulted in the suffering and the deaths of many Ethiopians in the past 2 years, close observers of Ethiopian politics could clearly see the influence of the TPLF clique. They sponsored, trained, and equipped any force that was willing to engage in violent and illegal acts to derail the transition. Their objective was clear: to make the country ungovernable by instigating clashes along ethnic and religious lines, to sow division and discord so that the democratic transition will lose its momentum.
Nigeria and India are marking 60 years of bilateral relations that have considerably expanded in recent years, with both nations building strategic and commercial ties. In commemoration of the relationship, the High Commission of India organized the dinner reception, bringing together dignitaries, heads of missions, consulate generals, members of diplomatic corps, friends and citizens from the Indian community to celebrate. In his address, High Commissioner for India, Abhay Thakur, highlights the similarities of Nigeria and India that boosts their bilateral ties. The event is also marking the end of the celebration of India's civil rights icon, Mahatma Gandhi's 150th birthday.
Our relationship with Nigeria is unique. We have a lot in common. We are both multi-ethnic pluralistic societies. India is not only the largest Hindu country in the world, it is also the second largest Muslim country in the world. We have 30 million Christians. We are the birthplace of Buddhism, Sikhism and Jainism. And Nigeria, in many ways, is very similar, where we see harmonious, peaceful coexistence of different ethnicities, different religions, and different regions. And yet they have come together into making one big country, which is today the largest democracy of Africa and the largest economy of Africa.
And that's it on Network Africa today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.